All right, welcome to episode number 1 of the Benchwarmers Perspective, season 2, kicking off here, and we have none other than last season's number 1 first episode. Eric Greiner here, coming back for a repeat guest, talking a little bit about the last football season, and then transitioning a little bit into this basketball season, specifically boys basketball season, and getting into that. So let's get into it. A little bit of football action first here. Who kind of did you not expect to play as well as they did, and what were kind of your expectations at the beginning of the season that shifted going into the end?
I don't think there was as much as I saw from what I saw as unexpected, down results from anybody, especially in like the West Coast Conference Lakes this year. Maybe Oak Ridge at first.
Yeah.
We got them in week 2 in that tight game.
Yeah.
We shot ourselves in the foot a lot of times in the red zone. That was actually the story of our team that year. Red zone offense was not as good as it should have been.
Yeah.
But maybe a team that surprised me a little bit more than I thought it would be was Ludington this year.
Yeah, I was
just Guzzle in particular.
Yeah, I was a little surprised too. And I mean, they were one play away from regional final. Was it?
No, it would have been a district final. It would have been a rematch with Whitehall.
Yeah. So I mean, one play, and from what I understand, that was a close game the whole time, and I think he threw a pick on like the Gunsel kid threw a pick on like the 8-yard line or something like that.
Probably, yeah.
I think I might be getting it wrong, and somebody's going to correct me in the comments. So, but they were very surprising to me. I knew they had good athletes, but I was actually pleasantly surprised that they were as good of a. I mean, they were second in the WMC, which is way better than I thought they would have been. I was thinking they would be maybe a third or fourth.
And that's where I was thinking that there would be 2.
Yeah. Another team that surprised me a little bit was North Muskegon. I knew they were going to be good, but you never know with losing a quarterback like that, a generational quarterback like that, with James Young. And then they came in and we had Colbert on the for episode 2, little sneak peek. Bryce Colbert and TJ Byard from North Muskegon's team actually came on the pod and talked a little bit about the season. I was quite pleasantly surprised by them as well. Nobody really knew Bryce Colbert if you were outside of North Muskegon and had a lot of film on him. And then he came out this year and just balled. I mean, he had Jared Goff-esque numbers. 65% completion rate, I want to say, I can't remember exactly right off the top of my head what his final stats were, but he played well, which was another one that surprised me a little bit.
I don't think he surprised me quite as much maybe as you.
Yeah.
Because I've seen him, a couple years on JV and whatnot when he played Montague. And to be honest with you, I think he carried very well into the varsity level.
Yeah. He's got great
and maybe lucky enough that with James Young leaving, he was able to be
I think that was a great opportunity for him, actually.
It was a very good opportunity for him.
And, I think that throughout that season, they went to a state semifinal?
Yeah, another state semifinal.
Which, back-to-back with 2 different quarterbacks is pretty good. That having lossless, basically. By lossless, I mean going from one quarterback to another, maintaining that same level of play is a hard thing to do, especially not even just that, but traveling all the way to Menominee for that game.
That regional
final. And then winning it, and not just winning it, but holding a Menominee team that had not gone a game being, I can't remember, why can't I think of the word? Held scoreless in a game.
Yeah, shutout.
Yeah, that's what it was. Not being shut out at their home field in I don't even know how long. And then doing that was really impressive.
I think the shutout may be the one surprising thing.
Yeah.
With that, especially with how good they were.
Yeah.
I watched that game personally the year before the semifinal game in Gaylord. And I walked into Gaylord Stadium that day, noticing 30-mile-per-hour gusting winds from the west,
and
a Menominee line that just looked huge. I'm like, North Muskegon's going to struggle today, and and that's what they did.
Yeah.
This year was kind of that revenge.
Yeah.
Let's go get them. They probably had maybe better favorable weather conditions.
Yeah, it was pretty nice up there.
And so that probably helped a little bit too.
Yeah.
Maybe some of those line kids that I saw last year might have been seniors and they're gone
now.
I don't know the whole details of that, but I think there was a little bit of that, hey, we want to get these guys because they got us pretty good last year on the lines.
And I mean, they're well coached too.
Quick break from the action to thank our sponsor. Meraki Performance is a leader in performance coaching. Whether you're looking to motivate your business or your athletic team, Meraki Performance can help. Check them out at merakiperform.com.
Yeah,
Larry does a great job with them, and not just that, but I mean, you have a Player of the Year winner on that team, and Bryce that's leading them. And then not only do they have a Player of the Year winner and great quarterback and great leader, they also have great leaders outside of just those guys, and TJ and Jackson Bean and Drew Bartos. They've got all the way across the board on that even as juniors and seniors, just as juniors, they've got great chemistry, and I think that's what made that team really successful this season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, they didn't get all the way to the final like they'd hoped. Still, extremely successful season. It's rare that a WMC team makes it that far in the playoffs.
It's like
often.
You compare, their game against Millington and Millington's game in the state championship game. I think that North Muskegon, that was the state championship game.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. Yeah.
Maybe shocked me maybe a little bit that was.
Yeah.
But North Muskegon they put up a heck of a fight. Millington was just that little bit better.
Yeah, and I mean they came back too, and it was within one score at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So the other team that surprised me a lot more in the playoffs was Whitehall. They're in a tough division just in general.
Yes.
And so to get just in playoffs, like obviously they were good in the regular season, and I don't doubt that they're and they were one of the better teams going into the playoffs. But then going into the playoffs and playing who they did and winning the way they did was impressive to say the least. I mean, they beat Forest Hills. Is it Eastern?
Forest Hills Eastern. Yep.
And after being down, was it 14 points? Maybe 21 points?
They were down 14-0 until a pick six late in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And then carried that to that, I think it was like 2-point win.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So doing that and then coming back and winning that game is impressive in its own right. And then going and playing Big Rapids, who you've struggled with in the past a little bit, and they kind of mopped them a little bit.
That was kind of like their revenge game, like North Muskegon with Menominee.
Yeah.
That was their revenge game last year after getting knocked out in district finals last
playing
year.
well against them and winning that game, that was also another one of those, like, I was a little surprised by that, just in general. I will also say I'm a little surprised on the not as successful side of Muskegon. With having James Young coming over, and then they were amped up for what looked like to be a pretty good season, and then just struggling throughout a lot of the season, losing to rival Motor Shores, who came out of nowhere and had a great season. That's another one that surprised me, and having struggles. I think part of it was a little bit of a different type of offense around, like Muskegon has always been known for their running offense,
right, and
running heavy offense, and then having to change that to a pass-first quarterback with James, I think had a little bit to do with it.
I do agree with that. I do totally agree with that.
Like, it's hard to do that. There's different block schemes. There's all kinds of things you have to do to try and fit that around, and that's nothing against James. James still had a stellar season, even with that scheme change. And I think a lot of the game, if you look back at the games they lost, there wasn't a lot of blowouts. Like, Muskegon wasn't getting blown out. There were a lot of close ones.
It's really those first two losses kind of were the big ones. It was that Rockford game and Zeeland West, I believe, was week 2.
I'm looking at their scores right now.
Or maybe it might have been reversed. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Zeeland West, they lost by 2 scores. Rockford, they lost by a score.
Okay, that's
Shores, they lost by 2 scores. Now, that one, I think that second score was more of like, we made a Hail Mary, or not a Hail Mary, but we tried to make a play on 4th down close to our goal line. I think that's more of a game that's like a 1-score game than a 2-score, because their final play, they were trying to make a play to be able to get the game within reach, and Mona Shores ended up getting the ball back and just scoring quick before the clock ran out. So that one I feel is nothing against Mona Shores, not that they shouldn't have won that game, but just that I feel as it was closer than what the score actually says, just based on the end of that game. And then Byron Center was 3 points, and then obviously against Archbishop Moeller, they're one of the best teams.
That's one of the best teams in the nation.
Yeah, like that's going to be hard to go in there. And then not even that, they still put up 27 points. Like, it's not like they went in there and just bowed down and said, "You guys are the greatest team ever." They went in there and put 27 points.
They still put up a fight.
Yeah.
That's still Muskegon.
You're talking a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scores between your 5 big losses. That's basically one a game.
Right.
That you've lost.
Let's take another moment to thank our sponsor, Shoreline Restoration Construction. Did a storm recently hit your business, home, or other building? Then Shoreline Restoration Construction can help. They are a leader in remodels, new construction, and much, much more. They also restore water-damaged buildings, flooded basement, and so much more.
Or six scores between 5 games. Like, you're losing close games, which is just it sucks. And I could see them in like little bit different circumstances in each game. They win those and they're in the playoffs. And I think if they had gotten to the playoffs, they would have done phenomenally.
As long as you can get past Shores, because Shores with them right there.
And that's another team that I was quite surprised that they kind of came out of nowhere. Shores. They were undefeated until their last game of the season, which was against another one of the best teams in the nation, and they almost beat them. They almost beat Central Catholic. They lost by a point after traveling all the way to Ohio to play them. So that's another team that's just like, man. No, they didn't have as much success in the playoffs. I was at that Byron Center game, and they were down big in the first half, and then they came all the way back and tied it up. And just unfortunate pick right on the goal line to turn that game around. But still, they had a phenomenal season, and I don't think a lot of people really were ready for them to have a phenomenal season like that. They beat rival Muskegon, which at Muskegon, which is hard to do. They beat Byron Center, which is another bigger rival, by 2 points. And then they kind of just, you look at the rest of their season, and they kind of just were like, let's go on, let's continue.
The Byron Center game, I think I still felt like Byron Center outplayed them in the regular season game. Byron Center just outshot themselves in the red zone a lot in that game.
Yeah. And Mona Shore's defense was on a different level, too.
Yeah.
Just in general. They had close to... They had one that was really close against River Rouge that was... They one score, but they had 3 shutouts on the season, including one in a playoff game, which is hard in and of itself. So 3 shutouts in one season says a lot about your defense and how good it is. So I was really surprised and kind of excited for them. I was rooting for them in that Byron Center game. Sorry, Byron Center.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it was so close. One pick on the goal line and nothing you can do there either. It was trying to get it out of bounds just so we can stop the clock quick and get to the next play, and it just, unfortunately, that was a snatch. I will say that kid, I couldn't believe that kid caught that.
The pick.
Yeah, it was nuts. So let's kind of get on to basketball now that we're right into it. And this season, who are you most excited for this season? What players are you most excited to watch? And who's impressed you in these first roughly 3 games of the boys' season so far?
So far right now, I'm kind of interested in seeing how well Montague develops with a kind of a major change of the guard. No more Paulos and Isaiah Atchison. They've moved on. So and they've struggled quite a bit, as I would expect them to.
Yeah.
But I think they definitely struggled more than I thought they would at this point.
They're young. I'll give them that. You're losing 3 very valuable seniors. You're losing your leading scorer in Owen Rath.
Yep.
You're losing your leading. Actually, I think Owen was close to leading rebounder, but your second leading rebounder or your first leading rebounder in Isaiah, and then you're losing one of your best defenders in Paul.
Yeah.
It's going to be a struggle coming into that season, and especially when you're young, because now I think they've only got 3 seniors on the team, maybe 4.
They've got 5 seniors. They start 4 seniors.
Gotcha. It's 5.
It's 5 total.
Yeah, and so.
But it still seems like it is a young team as far as like development and stuff like that.
So really getting those, it doesn't surprise me because you can only you really most of the time go 8 to 10 deep into a bench, and so if you only got 5 seniors, then you're going at least 3 into a bench, and if they're all juniors or even sophomores, then it's going to be a little different game plan there.
Yeah.
So I think give them a few more weeks. Hopefully they pan out a little bit and find that groove and get used to playing with each other. And we'll see what happens. One game that I was a little shocked by is Whitehall Spring Lake. We knew Whitehall was going to want to come back for that revenge, and I know Christian has been thinking about it for a while. Losing that in the
whole off season,
losing that in the regional finals to Spring Lake. I'm curious. They beat him by 13, and I think Cam had 30 points.
31, I believe.
And like 17 or 18 boards or something like that.
That sounds about right.
And maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Annette, if you're watching, correct me in the comments, because I know you're watching. But yeah, I'm excited to watch Cam. I think he's going to be a little bit different player. I think he's going to play a little different role on this team, more ball centric, as they don't have those guards that they usually have. They don't have Kyle. They don't have Kamar. They don't have those guys. They do have. It's not that they don't have guards, because they do. They've got Hunter. They've got Brock Morningstar. They've got Cal. I'm just curious to see how Cam fits into that in a little bit different role. I think he'll play a little bit more outside, and let Corday and Cal.
He's the kind of guy I could see can play, really, maybe 4 of the 5 positions. Maybe not the point as much, because that's not really what I feel like he is. But he can fill a 2, he can fill a 3, he can fill a 4, he can fill a 5.
Yeah.
Just with his height, his versatility, his athleticism. Mostly his athleticism.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what they do. They played Hudsonville, which is a phenomenal program. Got beat up a little bit, but then came and turned around and beat Spring Lake, and which for them is huge because of the little bit of rivalry there. And so I'm excited to see it. They got a rivalry.
At this moment, we would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Park Place Sports. Want to support your local athletics program? Look no further than Park Place Sports. As a leader in banner and sponsorship program for athletes, they provide top-notch services to help your team shine. Visit their Facebook page, Park Place Sports, LLC, and see how they can elevate your athletic program today. Park Place Sports, your partner in athletic excellence.
Game again this week, Montague. We'll see how that turns out, and I'm curious who else they play. Let me look here.
I think they have Ludington tonight.
Yes, they play Ludington tonight, and then it's Montague.
Montague on Friday.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm curious to see how that turns out. They got Coopersville on the schedule,
and they look really good.
And Coopersville is a phenomenal team.
Yeah, phenomenal program there.
Yeah, and so I'm curious to see how that turns out. I think they match up pretty well with them from what I've seen. So I'm curious on that. I know Ludington and Montague this week are kind of 2 more rivalry games. Ludington's another team that surprised me, though they've lost their first game. I don't know if they won their second game.
I believe they lost to Spring Lake.
They lost to Spring Lake. I was at that game. They lost to Spring Lake, beat Mason County, and beat Fremont. Beat up on them pretty bad.
Yeah.
I'm quite surprised that Spring Lake game was close. I mean, you're talking double OT, and one of those double OTs was forced by a Jaden Core step-through three-pointer that managed to go in. So that's a close game,
Yeah.
right? Like they're a different team too, losing Schillinger.
They're very young this year.
They're young, and they.
I believe Cam Gunsel, who's a junior, is their only returner.
Yeah.
If I'm
they do have
that right.
Yeah, I think you're right. They have the Taj Williams, yeah, and he's a bucket. I mean, I watched him drop 20 something on Spring Lake, and so I'm curious to see how they do. I mean, Thad always does a great job with them. He's a great coach.
I would say he's probably the best coach in the Lakes division altogether.
Yeah.
As far as tenure and all that.
Yeah. So.
Which I would put Zulik in that category in the Riverside. But.
So I'm curious to see what they do. They're especially with just kind of a different team in a way, a lot different. Losing a lot of your shooting ability, I would say pure shooting talent to graduating. It's going to be a much different team. The other team that I'm curious to see how they pan out is North Muskegon. Losing obviously James Young with him moving to Muskegon, but also gaining. I know they've got they call him Doogie. I think it's Adam Duger or something like that. Can't remember his last name. I just know Cobra Bryce kept calling him Doogie, and he's playing phenomenally right now. So I'm just curious to see how they play. They're always a good shooting team, so I'm curious to see how they adjust and what their shooting ability looks like right now, especially with them graduating Jackson and James Levin and who else did they graduate? There was another kid. Can't remember.
I think we're probably thinking of the same guy.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. So I'm curious to see how they play, especially with a little bit different lineup, and having some guys who didn't get a ton of came off the bench a little bit more.
That they're going to be in the repeat roles. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely curious to see that. See if maybe their football success translates into their basketball success.
Sometimes it does.
Yeah, especially when you got athletes like they had. I mean, it definitely helps. And then I'm also curious to see how Hurt plays out.
That's another one too, especially after I saw them.
I saw them against and that is a phenomenal basketball team. Bronsman's he's a great coach, but I was much surprised to see how well they played together. Caleb Ackley is a great player, great big, and then surrounding him is Miguel Escamilla.
Yep.
And is it Rockwell?
Yes, Rockwell.
Yep. Who's another phenomenal player. So I'm just curious to see how they've got a lot of talent. I'm sensing another deep run, kind of like when Parker was there. I think they have honestly more talent altogether than they did that year. That year they just had Parker really, and they had other guys. They had what's his name? I think it's Escamilla's brother. I can't remember his first name. I actually played with him. But him, they had.
Was it Diego?
Yeah, Diego Escamilla.
Yeah.
They also had Wyatt. Can't remember his last name either. His first name's Wyatt, blonde hair kid. And they had a few other guys that were phenomenal basketball players, but not quite the same talent as what they've got now. So I'm curious to see how this pans out. I love the way they play. They play with so much heart and ironically hard. But they're a fun team to watch, and I think they can make another deep playoff run. Who do you have?
They're going to be in Division 2 again this year.
Yeah.
So they'll have to deal with Ludington. So really, it's like if they can get past Ludington, they have a chance to make a good run.
I think they could beat Ludington. It'll be close.
I want to say Cadillac is probably in that district as well.
Yeah, they are.
Geographically.
Yeah.
Because it's really about, you go north of Montague is the other quadrant of the state.
Who do you think, who do you see basketball-wise making deep playoff runs outside of Whitehall and Spring Lake? Who do you see? Who's your dark horse?
Ooh, boy. I gotta look at the brackets a little bit better because I'm not so sure about Division 3.
Yeah.
Or even Division 1.
So I think my dark horse right now would be North Muskegon and Hart would be my two. I think they both have phenomenal teams. They've had success in other sports.
Yeah.
And Hart is.
I think North Muskegon would be more of a favorite, I think,
Yeah.
in my opinion. I mean, if there's going to be a dark horse, I might have to lean towards probably Spring Lake.
Yeah. And then who do you think is going to win conference this year? I mean, I think Whitehall's up there.
I think it's definitely Whitehall. Langton is the solid 2, I think.
Yeah.
I still think Langton's the 2.
Lakes, I think, is up. It's up for kind of. I think Hart could be there. I think North Muskegon could be there.
You mean the Rivers?
Or Rivers, yeah. I bet.
Yeah. I think North Muskegon and Hart are going to be the 1, 2.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a great game to go and watch and see how that turns out. I'm excited for that one. And then, I mean, any other teams across the state that you're kind of excited to see?
One is Poundwater up north.
Yeah.
I happened to catch in the local sports journal. They beat Western Michigan Christian by a point.
Yeah, they did.
Icing free throws at the end of the game.
The funny thing is that Poundwater.
At this moment, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Chris Wank, Century 21 First Class Realty. Looking to sell or purchase a new home? Or perhaps invest in a plot of land? Chris Wank with Century 21 First Class Realty is your go-to expert. As a leader in West Michigan real estate, Chris brings unparalleled knowledge and dedication to every transaction. Don't wait. Call Chris Wank today at 616-414-5420 and take the first step towards your real estate dreams. Century 21 First Class Realty, your trusted partner in West Michigan property.
Historically is a good basketball school.
Yes.
Fessler is a name that's from around there.
He was back in the 80s, yeah.
Yep. And same with Walkerville. It's the same way. So it doesn't surprise me. I'm curious to see how they end up too. And how things for them pan out, because they're not a team that typically gets a ton of coverage.
No. They only got like 60 kids in the school now.
Yeah. So I played up in their gym. Their gym is cool to
I played there.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
really?
my alma mater. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So excited to see them.
That's what I was saying. I'm excited to see them.
Yeah.
Do well.
Yeah, I'm curious that they're, like I said, they're a basketball school at heart. So.
It was baseball back in my day, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, it can go either way.
It's rotated a little bit between the two.
Going into next year, for football, who do you see as what changes do you see throughout the kind of whole area as a whole, and who do you think is going to be up, and who do you think is going to be kind of down, or who do you think is going to win conference next year? I know it's a little early to say, but
it's conference. I think will be a little bit more open next year.
Yeah.
I think Whitehall is going to take a slip back because they're going to
lose Cam. They're going to lose.
They're going to get hit hard by graduation again. They'll still be decent.
Yeah.
I think next year you could see a combination of Ludington.
I think Ludington's going to be a big one.
Ludington will be the big one. I think Manistee will still be pretty decent. Yep. Montague should be in the mix, and I would even say Oak Ridge will be okay.
Yeah.
So we're still kind of wondering though about coaching with Oak Ridge next year, because Harder may.
Yeah.
I've been hearing the rumblings that he may retire.
Yeah.
After this season, but
so
I haven't got an official word yet.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if how Whitehall went with the graduation bug, how they handle that, and then I'm also a team that a lot of people were surprised a little bit at was Manistee. That Cott kid ran for an unbelievably large amount of yards.
Yeah.
And is a great running back. So I'm curious to see how that translates into next year. I think he's a junior, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought was a senior.
Maybe he is a senior. I might be wrong.
But they had another back that was.
They had two guys that were solid.
Yeah.
Another team that, though they didn't make a ton of waves in the Lakes, is Orchard View. They had a few guys. They're really young, really young. Like I'm talking, a lot of the guys on their team are sophomore, freshmen. But going into this next year with a little bit more experience, they won 2 games. Yeah. I'm curious to see if they how they improve, and I think is it Aaron James? Is that his
that sounds right.
Yeah. How he translates this 2, even though it's a 2-win season, in my opinion, is success into this next year.
I do believe they'll be more competitive next year.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're going to be just there for that top tier yet.
The crazy thing is, though,
But I think
they got 3 years of the same players, basically.
Yeah.
Overall, because
that's what I'm
they're
saying.
so
I
young.
think they're gonna creep up over the next couple of years. Maybe in 2 years.
Yeah.
They might
I
maybe
100% agree.
They might sting a couple teams.
Yeah.
And maybe write the conference title for somebody.
Yeah. And then Montague, I think that's going to be a little bit of a shift. I think that there's going to be, they got a lot of guys graduating this year that have been solid parts, but then they have also got a lot of guys coming up that are phenomenal athletes.
Right.
That sophomore class right now, or freshman class right now, I see a lot of those guys getting pulled up, but I also see that they're just solid across the board. Great athletes, and athleticism tends to translate better to football than it does basketball. So
the junior and sophomore class has been pretty solid the last couple of years, and even like JV was not this year, but the year before was 9-0.
Yeah.
With a handful of sophomores up on varsity full time, not even playing JV.
Yeah.
So I think next year is going to be should be one of the better years for Montague.
I'm curious. Do you think the Rossler kid plays quarterback next year, or who's playing quarterback? Since both the quarterbacks that played this year are graduating.
No.
Both the starting quarterbacks.
No, they're it's Montague guy too, and I can't think of his name. Peterson. Oh, he's back next year.
Oh,
he's a junior.
You know what? I'm right. You're right.
Yep, Peterson comes back.
I forget.
Jarko was kind of that wildcat quarterback.
Yeah.
Had to use him a little bit at the beginning of the season when Pearson was under the weather.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I don't even know why I said that, because I did know that. He's in my brother's class, and my brother's a junior.
Yeah.
I completely. It's so.
Yeah. Well, they'll still have him.
Yeah.
Moss will probably shift to like a slot receiver position.
And then
as athletic as he is.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Ding dong.
Rossler.
I know he plays QB.
He was more the running back.
He was.
Even though he's a taller guy.
Yeah.
I could see the 8th grade quarterback though being the next varsity quarterback. He'll be the freshman next year.
Yeah.
Gabe Dyer.
Max Dyer.
Or Max Dyer, yeah. Gabe's kid. Yeah. Yep.
So that would be. He is tall, and athletic. We're trying to gotta get him for basketball. He loves wrestling, though, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how Montague shakes out a little bit. Especially, they do get hit by the graduation bug a little bit with, River Jarka graduating.
Jarka will be graduating, Francis graduating,
Yep.
Deacon's graduating.
Yep.
Those are going to be some of the big losses. Myers on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Will be our only loss. That's our only loss on the line, too.
Yeah.
So that's the huge thing. Bring back the tackles, bring back one guard, bring back the center.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how that pans out. I'm excited. Hopefully they get back to their roots. Let's. I would love to see him
back to that winning record.
Yeah.
It's been a couple of years.
Yeah. So I think it would be good to see them start. They've got the pieces. Let's see how put them together.
And you still have Flesh Bowman.
Yeah.
And
great running back. Played phenomenal.
And the other one who had 300 yards against Fremont.
Oh.
I'm having a brain fart today.
I know who it is. I can't think of his name. I can't think of his name. I know exactly who it is too.
Yeah. We're just
starts with a D.
Devlin Dean.
Yep. Yeah. I literally thought of it at the same time.
I was like, Devlin Dean.
Yeah. So you've got that coming back, which will be good. They've got all the pieces, so I'm really excited to see what they do, what Dennett does with them next year. We're about to get into basketball season, and
it's already underway.
Yeah, it is already underway. We've got a big rivalry game coming up tonight, or not tonight, sorry. Friday night.
Yep.
And we'll see how it goes. I appreciate you coming on. I love having it that you open our season. Give us a good analytical rundown of how the season's going to go, your thoughts, and appreciate you coming out and talking about it. And thanks for watching, everybody.
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, CatchMark Technologies. If you're looking for technical support, structured cabling, cybersecurity, or digital marketing, They're your go-to team. With tons of experience, they will guide you through all of your technical problems. Reach out to them at catchmarkit.com.